Another race day is over and we're here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya to bring you edition 7 of After the Flag. I'm here with Matt Birt and Simon Crafar then to analyse everything that's happened in a very dramatic race. Coming up in today's show, we of course talk about Marc Marquez and his dominance in MotoGP. We talk about that incident, which will be coming up first. And of course, we'll look back at what we predicted after qualifying yesterday. We have to start, boys, I think it's fair to say, with what happened on lap 2 here in MotoGP. The race did not pan out the way we thought it would, based on what happened on that second lap. Now, Simon, you've spoken to Jorge Lorenzo. We've looked at the incident over and over again. Let's get, as an expert rider, your opinion on what you think happened there.
You know, from when I first rode it on Thursday, coming out of that fast right-hander down that straight, it's fast straight, and into that tight little hairpin, which is like a safety option that they now use. It is kind of one of these, it feels like a Mickey Mouse turn in the middle of a beautiful circuit because all of the others flow. And as Mark said, we have other corners like that on the calendar, but it really is easy to get wrong, you know, because you can imagine slipstreaming in a group coming down there. All you have to do is be a metre later or get a little bit extra toe, and you feel like you're stopped in the middle of that corner. So it is so easy. And to be fair, I think you've pointed out earlier, Jorge also carries a little bit more corner speed, or maybe got a little bit hotter when there's bikes in front of them that are going slower. The really sad bit is that we missed out on I think what would have been an epic race, you know.
Well, Marquez got away well from that front row, Matt. Dovizioso got in front initially. It was a hell-raising opening couple of laps for Lorenzo and Maverick Viñales. They were both getting stuck in. It was looking like it was going to be really spicy, but it looks like Marquez inadvertently has escaped everything by making this move underneath Dovizioso into turn 10, and Lorenzo kind of had nowhere to go. Okay, he's admitted it's his crash, but it's just so unfortunate that 3 riders had to go down.
Yeah, if you didn't see the first 2 laps of today's race, you'd have thought it was a stroll in the park from Marc Marquez. Turn 4, very early on, he got a real big hit from Fabio Quartararo. That cost them both crucial time, but Marquez was so fortunate, so lucky. He admitted after the race. Dovizioso just checked up in the braking zone for turn 10. Mark was like, well, I'm not lining up a move on him here, but because he slowed up more than what I expected, I'm just going to let the front brake off, release the brake and lunge up the inside of him. That split-second decision it helped Marc Marquez win the race. It cost Jorge Lorenzo a lot more pain. Can you imagine if Lorenzo had taken out Marquez? This was the dream team. It would have quickly turned into more of a nightmare for Jorge Lorenzo. But yeah, Marquez really did get away with that one.
Let's not forget, Jorge's 5 times world champion and doesn't make those sort of mistakes often. I'd like to just...
No, I mean, I don't think he's a wrecking ball. I don't think that we need to be sitting here and saying you're a naughty boy.
I think a lot of people will be crucifying him.
I'll be quite honest, Simon. In the commentary box, I think at first glance, in real time, I was thinking, oh, Jorge, what have you done here?
Will he wreck the race?
I think that's probably the reaction we gave in the commentary box. We'll find out.
Yeah. I think he's actually said himself, we've got to remember, how long ago is it since Jorge Lorenzo was racing at the front in MotoGP? It's been so long. Probably Austria, the Red Bull Ring, it's been that length of time. And I think even Jorge himself admitted he got a little bit carried away. He did get a little bit excited, thinking, hey guys, I've had a really tough run. I'm in the game here. I can see Marquez, I can see Dovizioso and Viñales. Going to try and make this move. Of course, it didn't quite work out for him. I think Valentino pretty much called it bang on the money when he did his media debrief here tonight. He just said, hey guys, it happens. It's racing. I'm going to do it to somebody perhaps in the future. Jorge's had it done to him here in Barcelona by Andre, you know, and it's just one of those things that happens. It's just unfortunate that it did take out so many of the main players and cost us what we thought was going to be a cracking race.
Well, yeah, because we didn't know really what was going to happen with Maverick or Jorge because they got such great starts. Valentino, well, Mark even just said in the press conference he really favoured him, and you mentioned that earlier on the weekend when he was following him around on a couple of corners. By the way, just in case you're wondering why we're in pit lane and there's a load of garages closed, you know, I know there are more scenic parts around Barcelona, but there's a big test going on here tomorrow, and of course all the bikes are naked. They don't want to give away any of their secrets. What we can tell you is, just before we started filming, the Petronas Yamaha team was celebrating a second place for Fabio Quartararo, which we'll come to in a moment. Just quickly on Marc Marquez then, he escapes that, and then it's Danilo Petrucci behind him. Now, he admitted the only information he wanted was that Dovizioso was out, his championship rival. But once he got out front, he really did control the race beautifully, considering he went for that soft rear tyre as well.
Everyone struggled here today. All the riders said that there was going to be like really hard to get safely get to the end of the race because of the lack of grip and the temperature. And they were all worried. Everyone I spoke to on the grid was like, oh. And Marc said at the end of the race that's why he chose the soft. He was worried about having to battle if he had the harder rear, not being able to lap fast enough early on and getting into trouble. The thing is, I'd like to say again, absolute class from Marc, managing it so well. Yeah, he got lucky getting away, not getting taken out, but he also made no mistakes, and lost the front like other people would have, managed the rear, but he pulled it all off.
I totally agree with Simon. I mean, you've got to look at his lap times. He was doing mid to high 140s. There was nobody else that looked like they were going to get close. Quartararo was probably his closest challenger, but of course he got caught up in a bit of an early melee. What really impressed me from Marquez, it was really, really hot out there today, a real test of his focus and his concentration. He's been in this situation before this year in Austin, Texas, when it went horribly wrong. He actually admitted after the race that was at the back of his mind. He kept thinking about that, thinking, you've got to stay on board. You can't do it twice in a couple of races, launch it when you've got such a convincing lead. So it was a great job by Marc and massive for the championship.
Wow,
the Dovizioso won the 37 points, and he's had a DNF as well.
And I'd like to think Dovi would have, and maybe Rossi Vinales might have given him a hard time, if they hadn't got skittled and that gap opened up. I think we would have had a race.
We'll never know. Well, where we are, he's just going to have a 37-point lead going through. What we can say is certainly good news for Fabio Quartararo. He got pole position yesterday, guys. He's finally got himself on that MotoGP podium, and he worked hard for it. As Matt said, he had a bit of contact with Marquez early on, so he really had to fight for it. Now, against the Suzuki and the Ducati in particular down the straight where he was getting eaten alive, that's a really, really great ride.
Isn't he something special, to pull that off?
With the arm pump surgery as well, we shouldn't forget 12 days ago.
Yep, exactly. I think it proves that, I was wondering until he had that surgery, what was happening to Fabio at the end of the last couple of races, and they kept that quiet, didn't they? We didn't really hear about that he had problems, and it's sort of proved today that he even 12 days after the operation that it is working. But I think also hats off to Fabio that he can run in that company in those difficult conditions and not fall off, Absolutely.
Speaks volumes for his talent for me when in every single session here this weekend he was either first or second. He didn't put a foot wrong. The only real problem he had in the race was that early contact with Marc Marquez, but after that gathered himself up, showed unbelievable composure, and in the race there's no better painkiller, there's no better way to forget any kind of physical problems that you've got with that surgery than adrenaline and the prospect of your first podium in MotoGP.
Well, I just want to say just something, Simon, just before you come in. I mean, you had the chance to interview him after the race, as I have just had. I'm really impressed at how cool and calm he is about this. He's not getting carried away with this. This is a sign of things to come.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, this should be his second podium finish of the year, shouldn't it? He had that gear shifter problem in Jerez. He should have had 2 podiums in Spain this year. He bounced back brilliantly from that setback as well. He just looks so good on that bike. He does not look like a rookie. He does not look like a guy who's had just 7 MotoGP races. I think this year Fabio Quartararo may well find himself on the top step of the podium, because I thought today and all weekend, I've got to say, he rode absolutely brilliantly. A rising star and a big star of the future.
I think all the other guys, I saw Marc looking at him in the press conference, I think all the other top riders know he's coming. Well, I'm sure he's coming. He's a big threat for the future. I hope there's some more Moto2 guys get funneled through in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and if Yamaha were worried about who they might use to replace Valentino Rossi a few times, I think they've got that question pretty much sorted. Yeah, I mean, he's destined. He's only going one way, and that's into the factory Yamaha team, whenever that may be.
Let's move on to third place. Danilo Petrucci, he said that he was thinking about staying on the couch this morning. Brilliant third place. He said a third was like a win for him. Of course, he picks up the pieces somewhat, but let's just analyse quickly that battle between him and Rins, because that was some battle between them both, wasn't it?
I mean, really, I thought Rins was going to get it, He was coming, he put the pressure on. I know the Ducati makes it hard with this long straight. It's hard to get by, and he's looking for a spot. But when he went in tight at the end of the straight here, and Petrucci had the right line, I thought, oh no, they're going to hit each other. But he managed, it looked like lots of rear brake trying to stop it in that, lost it, almost threw him off, and it was pretty much the end of his podium challenge.
Yeah, Petrucci's got some pretty visible battle scars, hasn't he, from Alex Rins all over his leathers. When Rins got into second place and with clear track in front of him, I actually thought he was going to be able to pull away from Petrucci.
Yeah,
Quartararo was able to pull away from Danilo quite comfortably, but Petrucci said when Rins did pass him, he was thinking, oh no, here we go, the Suzuki is going to have, it normally saves its tyres better than me and the Ducati, but straight away he saw Alex and was like, well actually, he's in just as much trouble as what I am, so he thought, I'm still in the game here. That contact they almost had at the first corner as well, I mean, how close was that? Petrucci was saying afterwards, his mechanics grabbed him in Parc Ferme and said, you won't have seen it yet, but when you watch it on TV later on, you will realise how lucky you were, because that was super, super tight. I'm not quite sure, one, how Alex missed clattering into the back of Petrucci, then two, staying on board when he lost control of his Suzuki. It was a real fascinating part of the race, but Petrucci, that's 3 podiums on the spin now for him, in conditions where we know he's suffered in the past. Yeah. He's absolutely nailed on. You know, I don't know why Ducati haven't actually announced that he's staying in that factory team next year. I mean,
he will be.
Yeah, he is going nowhere.
Well, Miller finished in 5th place. It was 6th for Joan Mir. That's a really good ride from Joan Mir. I just want to say something about Rins. Surely he's going to be really disappointed. I mean, when you consider Dovizioso, Rossi, both out of the race, Vinales and Lorenzo as well, you'd be thinking, well, Rins is definitely on the podium. I mean, we'll find out our podium predictions shortly, but to not be on the podium today is going to hurt a bit, isn't it?
I was sure he was going to get second. You know, I would have put money on it halfway through the race. He was going to do it. To me, it looked like he lost too much rear grip at the end, which is unlike him in the Suzuki. They normally manage it right through.
Because he was trying to get past Danilo, or not?
No, just I think they ended up in the same boat, you know. And I saw him right after making that mistake on the next lap onto the front straight. He lost the rear again, I think it was just as much as he could do. You know, he'd lost too much. There was no coming back from it.
Yeah, on reflection, he's going to see it as a big missed opportunity with so many of his championship rivals missing a big chunk of points today. It wasn't a bad salvage job from Alex, but yeah, there was definitely more on the table for him. It just didn't have the rear grip, and we haven't said that too often about Rins and the Suzuki in the latter stages of races.
No, we haven't. OK, let's take a look back at yesterday then and see what we predicted for today. OK, great pole for Fabio. I've predicted him on the podium before, though, and I don't want to jinx him. If he's going to have a good day, I'm going to let him have his good day without me predicting him there. I think it's going to be maybe one of the best races of the season, even though we've just had that in Mugello. I'm going to go Alex Rins to win this race, with Marc Marquez second and either Rossi or Dovi third. I'll go Dovi for third.
Well, congratulations to Fabio Quartararo fans. A brilliant pole position. I'm really sorry, though, I can't see him getting the job done in the race. My top 3, pretty simple. Marc Marquez, Andrea Dovizioso coming through to second place, and Valentino Rossi for me is going to have his podium finish here tomorrow. Marquez has followed him for a reason several times this weekend. Marquez, Dovizioso and Rossi, that's my top 3.
My predictions for the race. I want the Yamahas to be there. You know, I want Valentino to do well, Maverick to do well, and I want Quartararo to get his podium. But I think Marquez, Rins, Dovizioso. I'm not really sure on what order, but I'm going with that.
Oh, well, look at that. I've got it wrong again. Thanks, Alex. You've let me down. These two got Marquez right. We were all wrong there, weren't we? None of us put Fabio Quartararo in our predictions. But, hey, we'll have to wait and see. You've already mentioned that Fabio's obviously going to be clearly topping your prediction list at some point in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to keep the faith with Fabio next time.
Yeah, I think I might.
I thought, actually, he struggled more with that arm pump, so, yeah, I did him a bit of a disservice. So next time, Fabio, you're in my top 3 in Assen.
Before we close the show, guys, I just want to quickly talk about the high rate of attrition today. I mean, this was unbelievable. We had 13 finishes in that race. 11 riders went down. Aprilia riders clashed. Cal Crutchlow made an attempt on Jack Miller. That went wrong. There were a number of crashes today. What are the reasons for that, Simon?
I think all 3 classes, it's down to the same thing. It's a little bit of lack of grip, and also because of temperature. But again, adding those things together with that little tight corner, you know, where there's 2 tight lefts, but the especially turn 10 left, it just adds up to lots of crashes.
I think just what it shows across all 3 classes is just how tough the competition is. These guys are out there at every single corner, every single braking marker, on the absolute limit. You cannot give an inch to anybody in Moto3, Moto2 or MotoGP. It's a sign of just how awesome and strong the competition is, because the guys are pushed into making these mistakes.
So true.
Before we close the show, just one last word on Marc Marquez. 37 points, guys. That is a mammoth amount to be ahead going into round 8. We've got Assen and then Sachsenring, and let's be quite honest about it. He's never been beaten at Sachsenring. He is the king of the ring. If he goes to Assen and wins, he's going to be going to Sachsenring thinking, well, this is in the bag already. I know it's a long championship, but 37.
No, you're right. You're right. I like to think, well, it was for me, is it's a little bit of a leveler Assen, you know, especially the old track, but still with the new one, I think there could be some shock. You know what I'm saying? Could throw some wild cards out. It's one of those ones that does that, you know. I think things like Petrucci, Dovi, Rins, Quartararo, or any of those guys could give Marc a proper run at Assen.
I mean, Marc's got 3 of his weakest tracks out of the way already this year. Qatar, he was second in Mugello, and he's been victorious here today. Assen, he's so strong. Germany, like you say, Steve, he's the master of the Sachsenring. I don't really care what happens as long as Assen next week or in 2 weeks' time is just as good as it was last year.
Yeah.
That was one of the best MotoGP battles we've ever seen.
My favourite.
180 odd overtakes. If we get half as much action in a couple of weeks' time, I'll go home from Holland a very happy boy.
So over to you, Assen. It's time to deliver once more for round 8. Thanks for joining us here this weekend at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, and after the flag. We'll see you next time. Dovizioso versus Marquez. Oh, Lorenzo! He's wiped them all out! How has this happened? They're all down. There's 4 of them down.
Vignoles is down. What a nightmare. Jorge Lorenzo has just taken out 4 of the top 5.
Rins thought about it, mate.
He's
almost gone down.
Dear me, has he stayed on?
Fabio Quartararo's now pouncing. He moves up into second. It's a happy home for Marc Marquez. 25 glorious and important points for him.